This show will concentrate on one of the greatest institutions in the world, the black woman. In order to get the real feelings and perspective of our sister, we went to her. A group was brought together with as many differences as likenesses, but held together by the common thread of the black experience. Our woman has borne us, nurtured us, and saved our race, and in the process, she often got the worst of it. As a unique institution, the black woman remains.
I believe the role of a black woman is to work for a just society, the kind of a society in which children can grow up without fear, in which they can hope. Don't you think so?
Really, to boil it all down, black woman is the mother of civilization. That adds it up. She is. She's actually the mother, that's it. She's the mother of the earth. She bears forth the fruit to fertilize the soil.
I agree.
I agree. I think we have overlooked the fact that black women have been for the white nation. They have sucked us dry. That we have nursed the children, we have fed them, we have done everything, put all our energies, all our work into working for the white family. And now it's time for us to take all our strength, all the strength that Monahan says we have. We're supposed to be the strongest women anyway. It's time for us to take all our strength, all our milk, all of that, and put it into working for the black nation.
I'd like to touch on something here. I'm glad you brought this up, and I don't know what reaction this is going to get because a lot of people jump at me when I say it. But unfortunately, all people in this country, black people and white people, are subjugated to the same system of media, are subjugated to the same systems of communication, are subjugated to the same conditioning. And that's something we definitely have to reckon with if we're going to ever get through any of this stuff. Moynihan, that's sort of the name that's associated with that word matriarchy, definitely has to be dealt with.
I'd like to deal with him
right,
face to face.
Right. I think that unfortunately, a lot of us, black men and black women, believe in the myth of that matriarchy. And I think that belief engenders a lot of negative things. Number one, it says that matriarchy is inferior to patriarchy, which is the whole thing right there. You see that patriarchy is a sort of natural or divine order of things, which is not so. Two, that black men have believed and internalized the myth of white womanhood in this country and Anglo-Saxon impositions, so that they place us in relation to where white women are.
Two things a woman, I believe, being a black woman and a very proud black woman, can do for a man, make him or break him. And then you take into consideration how the black man has been berated by the white man. His woman, adequately couldn't have the luxuries of another woman, born the same just like her. This man has to, black men have stood by for a very, very long time and been humiliated by the system. He can't get the job that this fella can get. And you must understand that his wife might have to go on welfare. He has to stay in the humility of that. He has to watch the plumber duck if the welfare worker come in there. You understand me? He has always been made to feel he's below the next man. So you must take into consideration. Now black men are learning, that they're part. They're beginning to feel like a man. They're getting their dignity and their pride back. So he needs a woman to keep on pushing him. Vice versa, When you say about, in the system, this system has destroyed, actually, the black man. Because everything that we've ever done, there's no part of this country that you can say, if you touch that a black man didn't bring it in here. Everything that they built, they've never been able to share with it. I don't even want to hear that, what society have done just took our black men and destroyed their manhood. That's what they've done, aid and abetted.
I'm certainly not in disagreement. I'm in 200% agreement with everything you said. I think we all are.
But mightn't it be, you know, like, we understand that what the brothers are going through now, as you say, the cultural nationalism, but mightn't it all be very revolutionary, and you might be the better woman for understanding that at this point they need you to walk a few feet behind and get their manhood together. So if it takes that, then I'm going to do whatever the brothers need now. I mean, I've been doing a lot of research on slavery and talk about wiping out and ripping off a people. They did it to the black man. They did it. And if it takes, at this point, a cultural nationalist say you got to walk 4 paces behind me, baby, slow. If that might be revolutionary, I'll do that. I mean, I'm going to do anything at this point that's needed.
Is that revolutionary? How revolutionary is it if one half of us is in condescension and a kind of almost fear saying, walking 10 paces behind you, saying that in order for me to, quote, regain my manhood,
maybe that's
I have to deny you your peoplehood.
No.
Is that revolutionary? I think we really have to explore
if somebody
that.
really needs that, I don't. We just have to do whatever we need to do to help
that
these
says
black
to me
men
that
get
you
together.
really believe that there has been this thing called a matriarchy that, as Moynihan
I
put
believe
it,
we've been ripped off as a people. Black people have been ripped off.
No, we haven't been ripped off.
but you're not dealing with the internal thing that really...
I take that back. Black people hasn't been ripped. Black people have been raped of every ounce of human things that's entitled and due another human being.
Right. Do you know how we really can't get this together? And really, because to me, this is very alien, and we shouldn't be sitting here talking about defining something which has been defined for us. We should be about redefinition. And I don't particularly care whether I walk alongside, in back of, or in front of. That is going to have to be defined for me by my man. We know too well what our being is all about in the United States of Europe. We have to deal with that. That's why I started out by saying, are we talking about changes within existing systems? Because that's all we're talking about. We're talking about a black nation within a European nation. And if we have to deal with that, then let's redefine our own culture and stop being a subculture. Stop worrying about the man. That's deifying him. Who is the man? You know.
I agree with you. Except, sorry, go ahead, Amelia.
No, I just wanted to mention in terms of cultural nationalism and what, brothers feel. I don't know, if it's all true that brothers would like you to walk 10 paces in back of them. But I do know that we do have a definite role. And until we play our definite role, they cannot play their definite role. And our roles are complementary. Complete and make perfect that which is imperfect. And that if we go about being the inspiration of the nation, and again, educating the children of the nation, and participating in the social development of the nation, that it would be no problem. And when we say we should not discuss things, we start out to discuss them. Like, why raise Moynihan if he's invalid? Don't raise him. Don't talk about him.
I really believe this very strongly, that as much as we would all like to say that and struggle every day re-examining ourselves to do just that we are, unfortunately, very much a part of that dominant culture. It does affect us. Now, if it didn't affect us, we wouldn't be fighting crackers. And that's the truth of it. If it didn't affect us, we wouldn't get mad about what Mr. Moynihan writes. And if it didn't affect us, certain people would not react to the myth of the matriarchy in the way they do. And that's why it has to be exposed and destroyed. It's not that I really want to spend time talking about Mr. Moynihan. It's that I think that we have to get rid of the illusions, we have to get rid of the poisons, we have to get rid of the lies. And one way to do that is expose it and dissect it.
Another way, if we create a new life, a new value system, and live it as an example.
That's what I'm talking about. That's it.
That would probably be the best way. Because then people could see it as a living thing and not as a theory. Because what we need to do is to reestablish a new value system. That's what black people need, a value system.
Exactly, and how do we go about that?
We go about it the way you go about daily work. First of all, you decide what you want. You establish your values and you start to live it. And the people in your community, you start talking to your neighbors. You get yourself together first.
Exactly.
Then you get your community together.
We're in agreement.
Then you get your neighborhood together.
We're in agreement.
Right. And then you can move on out. But in the beginning, you got to make sure you got yourself together.
Right.
Okay.
You have to start right here.
But I think we ought to be sure we understand what she's saying. Now, this relates to what you said earlier about the black nation, right?
Exactly.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean by the black nation.
I mean, black people's lives, being self-determining, defining yourself, naming yourself, and having political power. We're a nation already without political power and military power. We're a cultural nation without political and military power. We're a nation, you know, in captivity by another people, a people who have a different, totally different culture than we have, who cannot even relate to the things that we relate to. That is the problem. And as black women, we have to be the inspiration for the nation, for our men. We have to start out into the community educating the children, educating ourselves. Because once we educate ourselves, the children will become educated, because we are the ones that teach the children. We are the ones that decorate the homes. We are the ones that are with both female and male children. We are the ones that the children look to as the image in terms of their daily education. So it is important that we don't get our values mixed up and feel that we have to educate the world. We haven't first educated ourselves. It's still always a self thing.
Indeed.
I mean, the world will relate to us once we can relate to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think we're afraid of definitions and afraid to set guidelines because we might have to live by them. If you stand up and say a black woman should do this and that, then you might have to do that. But if you say, well, we don't have to say anything, you know, we can just do it. Do what? So like everybody can do their own thing. But every society needs a value system. Every society has a criteria in which they live by.
And we live by everybody else's by.
Exactly.
Right.
I don't think, maybe all the sisters don't know what K building is.
Well, K building is the building up in Harlem Hospital that was taken over by community people, I for one. And first time it ever was done, we're still fighting to keep control. But like we tell the doctors, we do our thing or don't be no thing. We blow it up. I mean that. I don't care if the CIA listening, blow it up, because it has to be a change, and people have to stand up, especially black people, for their principles. Because, other groups don't think that we have too many principles, that it's nothing really that we want, that we think is worth fighting for. We can always go over in Vietnam and kill somebody damn near look like us. But we never, have banned our resources and our dreams to actually get something constructive. We're always fighting somebody else's wars, fighting for somebody else's ideals. We never really want to fight for ourselves. That's why, as the sister was saying here, K building meant so much. This was something for our people, something we believed in to the extent that we would have died right there. Mm-hmm. And for me, myself, it's the first time I ever had anything that meant that much to me.
Those were drug addicts who wanted.
Well, we opened it mostly because we took it. We had, just like you said, we went here, we went there, asking everybody, could we get facilities for adolescents? And every day you always heard, I'll call you, don't call me. So then one rainy evening we decided to go up there and take 2 floors that were badly needed in a community of 150,000 addicts. Because as the sisters here say, you get tired of watching your people die. So we took it. But we had a principle, this is what I'm saying. The principle is still there, and every day we don't relax. We keep right on so we can get it perfect. At least we're able, like she said, to save the children. And this is what we have to do. You have to save the children in order to save the race.
I want to say something that some of you may disagree with, and that is, I don't think you can just work for black children. I think that the minute you start working on the problems of the black child, you find that you have to be concerned about all children, don't you? I mean, if you're working on drugs... Well,
don't ask me that. I will never refuse any human being to come in there, but I'm concerned about mine, because you can't go, up in the Bronx when you haven't even cleaned up. I can't clean up. If I can't clean up my house, in other words, how the hell am I going to clean up yours? I got to clean up mine first, just like this sister said. Then clean up yours. You know, because like drugs with us has been in our community for 25 or 30 years. Nobody really ever cared. You know, we have kids up there 13 years old, been on drugs 2.5 years, and the Board of Education haven't even missed them out of school. You know, like we say, they freed us 300 and some years ago, turned around 50 years later and gave us dope. You know, so I don't really go for, you know, for all of that about going across the river and doing something. I think we should stay on this side, try to do what we have to do for each other.
I don't think that we can work just on our own problems unless we are concerned about the total society. And as a matter of fact, unless we go across the river too, and we're concerned about a lot of things happening in the world. This is a very small planet, and we feel the impact of these forces. I don't think that we can concentrate just on what you call the black nation, so long as we exist in America, which is a sick society. Don't you think we have to work on that?
No, I don't. You know, I really...
I just wanted to define this as a difference of
I
opinion
appreciate everything you're saying, but quite often when people do not understand, they cannot relate. And I don't really think you understand what's going on in black communities. I think you're very comfortable. I mean, please...
Go ahead.
I think you're very comfortable sitting in your office and trying to be very community-oriented from your desk and in your plush, air-conditioned place.
It's not very
No, but you have to get... I would like to see your office moved to a rat-infested apartment.
If I live in one of them roach-infested apartment
Right, yeah, we've all known what it is.
No, but I live there right now. I mean, I live there right now.
But my point is you have to understand how the system operates in order to take it over and to make it more responsive to you. Now, there are ways of, and I think there are ways of turning programs around. I think all of you were involved in
Fairfax,
you know. Take a walk.
Really?
Pardon?
Take a ride. I mean, really through Harlem, even if you live there. Go at 114th Street and 8th Avenue, then curve all up through there. You'll see how the system works.
Indeed.
You will see how the system works. And when we see, you know, professional people of our own race starts to work with that system, then we know, you know, where it's coming from. And a lot of us black people have to begin to learn that we are black, and that man will always look at us just as that. Regardless of how much he might eat with us and pat us on our back, he still look at us for just what we are.
There are many, many things that we can do if we look at ourselves seriously as a nation and not get preoccupied with the goings-on of someone else and get preoccupied with what we're doing. You know, there are resources in the black community. We should use those resources, and we should move around, you know, in such a way as though we were seriously thinking about having a nation.
I agree.
And seriously, and not just say it because it sounds good, or say it because it is hip, because nationalism is not faddism. And I think that a lot of people are identifying with different things because it is hip to identify with certain things, but it is hipper to understand that we are slaves and we got to be free. And it's even hipper to work at our, you know, our freedom, national liberation for black people.
Well, what about the sisters who don't agree with you? Then who has to deal with them?
Well, it's not about agreeing with me.
It's about doing.
It's not agreeing about it.
No, they will just say, I don't agree. It is, you know, we just have that, you know, she could say, I don't agree with you, you know.
Right.
My man won't let me do that. I don't want to do that. And what will happen to these people?
I'm not going to preoccupy myself in terms of what will happen to them, because I know that more people are preoccupied with freedom. No one wants to be a slave.
But are we talking about a black nation? I'm talking about black people who haven't quite gotten the mind thing together. So we have to preoccupy our minds.
I think that because all black people don't say they're nationalists, and because all black people don't, you know, wear braids or naturals and traditional clothes, don't mean they're not nationalists now. Now, they're nationalists, but they just don't use the word, because no one wants to be a slave. And there's no black person on this planet who will disagree with freedom. So, like, I don't know whether, you know, we can consider that or not.
What you're saying is then that it's that many people will be working on things from different perspectives. be working on the problems of freedom in different ways.
Exactly. Sure, they'll work on, people work at the level they can understand. Because they don't understand certain levels does not mean that they're not nationalistic. It just means they're not conscious enough to understand certain levels of what's going on. But that is your job. If you were conscious enough to understand it, then it is your job to make sure that those who understand one will understand two. And that is the job of, the conscious nationalist. And Imam always says that if you're a nationalist and you're talking bad about someone else and you're not doing anything to, to get them where you think they should be, then it's you. Because if you're that hip, then you should be hip enough to change them.